to you. Good morning, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning to you. You. Good morning, good morning to you. You. Good morning, good morning to you. And many more, and many more, and many more. Good morning, and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. I hope that you have been having a great, and wonderful day. It is Relationship Wednesday, and we're going to get right in to setting boundaries and finding peace and drama free. We are in the chapter. We've come a long way. Let's see. In our first book, Set Boundaries and Find Peace, we are in the Identify and Communicate Your Boundaries section. And good morning to those who are coming in. And we're going to talk a little bit about assertiveness. And just opening up a little bit on assertiveness when it comes to identifying and communicating your boundaries. And then in the book Drama Free, we are on the chapter Troubleshooting Relationships with Parents. And we're going to look at the section today entitled How to Manage Being a Caregiver to Your Parents. I've actually been learning a lot about the caregiver life with the team of my family members who are taking care of my great aunt temporarily. But I've been learning a lot about the caregiver life, and I want to express my admiration for people who caregive on a regular basis, who caregive 24/7, or have their parent living with them, or they've gone to live with a parent to make sure that that parent or that guardian or that relative is taken care of. You all are the real MVPs. Like, I had an appreciation before, but now that I'm sort of sharing that role with others, I have a greater appreciation for it. And so if you're a caregiver out here this morning, I want to say thank you for the job that you're doing to love your family members well, to love them through whatever physical ailment they have, to love them through whatever mental state they are in. It does take a special person to be a caregiver. And so, again, we are reading from Drama Free, a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships, because this is Relationship Wednesday for us. And we are also reading from Set Boundaries, Find Peace, a guide to reclaiming yourself. And we're looking at communicating your boundaries in an assertive way. So we're going to start there first. Let's start here first. And let's snap to it. Assertiveness is the way. When someone is assertive, they will think something like this: I know what my needs are, and I will communicate them to you. The healthiest way to communicate your boundaries is to be assertive. In contrast to all the forms of ineffective communication previously mentioned, assertiveness is how you clearly and directly state your needs. Assertiveness involves communicating your feelings openly and without attacking others. It isn't demanding. Instead, it's a way of commanding that people hear you. Examples of assertiveness: saying no to anything you don't want to do, telling people how you feel as a result of their behavior, sharing your honest thoughts about your experiences, responding in the moment. Instead of talking to a third party, talking directly to the person you have issues with, making your expectations clear up front instead of assuming people will figure them out. So, assertiveness. Think about that today. Are you assertive in your relationships? Are you making your needs known? Or are people having to do some guesswork with you and read your mind? The point being, we want to make sure that we're clearly communicating our needs to others. All right, let's hop into this topic of troubleshooting relationships with parents, how to manage being a caregiver to your parents, raising your parents, parents with unmanaged mental health issues. I actually am dealing with that myself. And then one-sided relationships with parents. And we might get to reparenting and the importance of self-care. So this will lead us to the end of the book. We'll see how far we get through it. I might pause here and there to make a point, but let's try to absorb what it is that she is saying here. How to manage being a caregiver to your parents. When you can let go of what you need from your parents and allow them to be who they are, your relationship can transform into a more authentic experience. Some things don't get better with time, however. We rarely talk about how hard it is to accept that our parents were never what we needed in childhood and still may not be what we need as adults. Even though we can't change people, it can be difficult to have relationships with those who won't change. Give yourself a lot of grace if you're still accepting the reality of who your parents are. Roles are reversed when children provide financial support to able-bodied, financially inept, or irresponsible parents, or when they provide emotional support or physically care for a parent. In these situations, adult children support themselves and their own family as well as their parents. This can sometimes breed resentment and frustration. It's your choice to help your parents or allow them to resolve their own problems. To manage financial support of a parent, it might be helpful to do the following. Decide on an amount, sort of like an allowance that works within your budget. Say no when you cannot afford to help. Offer to connect them to a financial counselor. Consider taking over their spending as a conservator. Now, that term conservator, of course, has been in the news quite a bit with the case of Wendy Williams. And so people are looking at that, and also Britney Spears when she was in a conservatorship. So people are kind of looking at the idea or the notion of a conservator a little bit differently because of the abuses that they have seen around the role. So I would say think about that role, know what that role is, conservator. If you're choosing to go that route, really understand the legal ramifications of that, because as we're seeing with those two cases, once they are in a conservatorship, it looks like it's kind of hard to get out of one. So be thinking about that if you're planning to go that route. To manage emotional support of a parent, it might be helpful to do the following. Let them know which topics you're uncomfortable discussing. Encourage them to build a social network with peers or family members in their age range. Let them know how hearing certain things might make you feel, especially if they are talking about your siblings. Redirect the conversation when it moves toward uncomfortable territory. Suggest that your parent talk to a therapist. To manage caring for a parent's physical needs, it might be helpful to speak with their insurance company, connect with a case manager to find out what's available through the policy, ask other family members for support instead of trying to shoulder everything on your own, which unfortunately a lot of people do, um, especially if they see that other family members are not willing to step up. I know in our case right now, as we are sort of taking turns with caring for my great aunt, making visitations, making sure she has the things that she needs with her, making sure she's being heard by the nurses and the administration. Um, we do have a good network of support, but everybody doesn't have that. So if you are the only one shouldering the burden of taking care of your parent or your elder, make sure that you are leaving space for self care. Make sure you're leaving space so that you have someone where you can cast that burden that you have. Um, and so don't neglect yourself in the desire to be that support system. And of course, build a support system to process the mental stress of caring for a parent or a guardian. Raising your parents. Children want to be guided with structure and expectations. When the child is the mature one in the relationship, it can be hard to take your parent seriously. For years, Amy expected her mother to quote unquote grow up. On holidays, her mom would cuss out family members and struggle to maintain her composure in public spaces. Amy saw her mother as immature and wanted her to act her age. But physical age doesn't determine psychological maturity. So, how to manage your relationship with emotionally immature parents? One, determine their emotional age as opposed to their chronological age and set your expectations accordingly. Your parents may not resemble the other parents in their age bracket. Two, don't compare them with their peers. Consider their history and compare them with their previous behavior. Most people will continue to be who they've been in the past. Three, state the problem and be clear repeatedly about your expectations. Don't get caught up in their reaction to the issues. You cannot change how they respond. And I think that is actually something that I didn't think about before, where she says, determine your parents' emotional age as opposed to their chronological age. Because some of us are maybe looking at our parents and saying, I remember that behavior, and that was back in my teens. I was behaving this way. Why is my parent stuck in their teenage mind emotionally? Yeah, that's a good way to think about it in terms of how you're going to deal with it and how you're going to respond to a emotionally immature parent. Do you have the parent that blows up? Do you have the parent that waits until special occasions and special events to show out? I experienced that. My parent would wait till special events. She would get really induced under the influence of alcohol, and then she would show out. And then it became showing out, but I'm still the parent, and I'm still the one who is in charge. So I think that's good, to think about, is your parent expressing emotional immaturity, and can you pinpoint where in the plane of emotional maturity your parent is so that you respond based on that. Which leads us to parents with unmanaged mental health issues. I didn't know how many people are out here dealing with parents that have unmanaged mental health issues, and until I started conversing about mine. And then I had people say, I'm dealing with abandonment with my parent around the fact that they have unmanaged mental health issues. They ghost for several months, or they don't communicate. Um, and part of it has to do with them not being willing to manage their mental health issues. Not that they haven't gotten the help, not that they haven't gotten the medication, not that they haven't been evaluated or seen a therapist, but it's the fact that they are unwilling to follow through with the program that would manage their mental health. And a lot of people are going through that. And sometimes, they feel judged because it's like, hey, this is your parent. Why can't you get them under control? Number one, because they are sane. They've gone through the process of testing and evaluation. And so it's not a measure of them lacking the intelligence to follow through. It is them lacking the will to follow through. And when it comes to the will to follow through, you have to decide how much of the process that you're willing to go through with that parent. Okay. So let's read what she has to say here. It can be challenging to have a relationship with someone who denies their issues and won't consider mental health treatment. Depression, anxiety, personality, and other mental health problems impact parent child relationships. Some people may never accept a diagnosis that has been given or symptoms that lead to a diagnosis. A person may exhibit mental health symptoms worthy of clinical diagnosis and never choose to receive care. When a family member refuses mental health treatment or denies having any issues, you can't force them to receive care. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, if you know what's wrong with them, you should be able to resolve the problem. But in these kinds of cases, you cannot force them to receive care. When someone is harmful to themselves or others, it is possible to solicit support from social or legal systems to intervene and ensure your loved one stays safe and doesn't harm others. But if they're not harming other people, they're just refusing their actual mental health treatment plan, you can't force them. Jim's father had terrible mood swings and anger outbursts and night terrors. Even when he was diagnosed with PTSD, he refused to seek treatment. How to manage your relationship with parents with unmanaged mental health issues. Number one, step away from situations that become violent or abusive. A mental health issue doesn't give someone license to verbally or physically assault you. Number two, give them space when they request it or start to seem distant. In my case, my parent has said, if I need something, I will reach out to you all. Now, I live in another state at this point, but um, the relatives that still live in the same state, they occasionally get a response or they occasionally get a call. Um, the last time I spoke to my mom was probably a few weeks ago, but it was because she was not well. She had gone to the hospital, she had gotten treatment, and she was still enough in a place where I could call the hospital, request her room number, and actually speak to her. So again, if you have a healthy relationship with your parent and you can call them and talk to them at any point of time, I'm going to recommend that you do that because everybody doesn't have that. I know we think that everybody does, but everybody doesn't. And so in our case, our parent has already told us, listen, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do my thing. I don't want to be bothered. And when I want to be bothered, I will call you all or let you all know where I am and that I am okay. Is that the relationship setup that we want as children? Obviously not. But is that where she is with her mental health treatment and management? That is where she is. So you have to meet people where they are. And I know for a lot of people, that may be a very difficult concept, especially when it's your parent. But you really do have to meet people where they are. Next, create an emergency plan. This can be particularly helpful with family members who experience depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. The emergency plan should include triggering behaviors, who to contact in case of an emergency, including doctors and nearby hospitals, insurance information, and action steps to take. Key family members and stakeholders should be given a copy of this plan. Now, I'm not quite at that stage because we're just now getting her to the point where she's willing to communicate periodically. But in terms of including her in that plan, but we do have a plan. Me and some of my siblings do. Next section, and I think we're going to stop here today. No, I think we can finish. Let's finish. One-sided relationships with parents. Riley calls her mother, Alice, once a week, but her mom rarely asks, "How are you doing?" and quickly returns to talking about herself if the topic returns to her child's life. While Riley wants to know what's happening with her mother, good morning. While Riley wants to know what's happening with her mother, she doesn't want the entire conversation to be about Alice's life and complaints. She also wants her mother to sometimes initiate phone calls rather than having to always do it herself. How to manage one sided relationships with your parents. Insist on talking about yourself. Your parents can't dominate the conversation. It's okay to insert yourself. Let them know what you're experiencing. Redirect the conversation when it veers off track. Letting them know what you feel might sound like, when we talk, I'd like you to ask me about what's happening in my world. You seem engaged when we talk, and I'd like to hear from you more often. Please call me once a week. Handling the interaction might look like, it might be troubling to talk multiple times a week to someone who centers the conversation on themselves. You aren't obligated to speak to them more often than feels comfortable for you. Your parents likely believe you're an excellent listener, or they have no one else to talk to. Accept that when you converse with them. Your job, many times, is to listen, not to do anything about your parents' problems. Encourage them to find support. You don't want to be the only person who listens to them or the only person they run to. Reparenting. Give yourself what you didn't have growing up. Some parents are not emotionally equipped to meet your expectations as an adult, and they may never rise to the job of parenting in the way that you want. In these instances, it's imperative that you parent yourself. Reparenting is a healthy way to nurture your inner child while offering yourself the care you need. Reparenting yourself can look like the following: saying, "I'm proud of you" to yourself, preparing nutritious meals for yourself, completing your tasks slowly and not in a hurry, reassuring yourself about your goals, your needs, and your expectations, planning celebrations for yourself, affirming yourself using "I am" statements, such as "I am adorable when my dimples show," sleeping 8 hours each night, and giving yourself a bedtime. Now, if you're in the midst, like me as a woman, if you're in the midst of perinecia, that might be a little bit more difficult. Perinecia is my name for perimenopause. which can cause bouts of insomnia. But when you can, try to get a 6 to 8 nights sleep, hours of sleep. Playing, learn how to play again. My husband knows this about me personally. I try to take several times a week where I'm actually doing something enjoyable, whether it is painting, whether it is going to a park and having lunch when the weather is good. Sometimes I might get on the swings and swing on the swing set. I generally wait until there's nobody around because I don't want to be disturbed. But infusing your day, infusing your week with play, doing something that you enjoy, rewarding yourself for big and small accomplishments. My husband knows I am really big on celebrating, number one, the small things that happen in your life, and then celebrating incrementally. So when I complete a task or when I complete part of a job, and it goes really well and I get great feedback from my clients or I get great feedback from the directors that I'm partnering with, I celebrate. Even if it's only, going to get a smoothie or going to get, a single cupcake. I don't bring boxes of cupcakes in my house. Even if it's only going to get a single cupcake and celebrating myself, it's even if it's going to celebrate with a cup of coffee. I like to acknowledge those small moments and those small milestones. So reward yourself not just for the big, but also reward yourself for your small accomplishments. If you're a parent, did you get up on time? Did you get your child to the bus stop? Did you get your child to school on time? Did you have a good time in the parent drive-through line and everything went well and your child didn't leave anything and you had to come back home and get that for the child and bring celebrate your small accomplishments and don't let anybody stop you from doing it. Finally, the importance of self-care. Taking care of your emotional and physical needs should take precedence when you're from a dysfunctional family. An outlet like therapy can be an excellent way to support yourself, along with nurturing healthy relationships with other people in your life. Changing your parents may not be possible, but changing how you show up in relationship with your parents, that is within your control. When you desire to maintain contact, it's crucial to discern how to do so without harming yourself. After having draining interactions with the family, allow yourself time to recover and determine how you want to engage with them moving forward. When a new issue presents itself, decide how you want to respond in the moment or come back to a solution later. But don't let the problem fester. Address them as soon as possible. And most people that know me know that I use what I call the 5 minute rule. If something is bothering me more than 5 minutes, if it keeps swirling around in my head and in my brain, sometimes I will journal it so that I can release it. But if it's still there, I'm going to contact that person either in writing or I'm going to get on the phone and say, hey, can we talk for a moment? Or hey, can we video call for a moment? Because something's bothering me and I've tried to release it, but it's still there. So if you have some moments of time, you got 5, 10 minutes of time, let's connect, let's talk. Or if I call them, I'll say, hey, this thing has been on my mind and I want to talk about it and I want to address it. Sometimes the person says, I can't address it right now. Let's table it. Let's get back. But I always try to circle back to whatever it is because I don't want things to fester. There's no one who's in my life right now that I haven't communicated with them directly how I feel about them, how I appreciate them, and I have shown it. And so for me, Relationships are important in that way because a lot of people, when it comes time for a transition and exit of this life, the refrain that I hear from a lot of people is, I never got to tell that person how I felt about them. I just assumed that they would always be there. I just assumed that they would always be around. I just assumed because they were the faithful person that I could always talk to them. They were all, I just knew I felt comfortable because I was assured of their presence. But what happens when that person is no longer here? So I always tend to have that in the back of my mind that whatever interactions I'm having with people, I want them to know that I genuinely care about them, that I genuinely love them, that I appreciate them. And so I try to share that with them as much as possible. So her exercises today as we close out, grab your journal or a piece of paper to complete the following prompts. You don't have to complete it now. This is the suggestions. Ask yourself the question, what are the main challenges in your relationship with your parents? If you have none, absolutely none, I'm going to say take your parent out to dinner at the least. If you have absolutely none, take your parent on a vacation. Pay for it if they don't want to go with you. So if you have no challenges in your relationship with your parents, you really should be celebrating on a regular. Question number two that you want to respond to. Do you know your parents' stories? I know my mother's stories. When my father was alive, I got a chance to talk to him. I know some of his stories, but we were getting to know each other in that father-daughter friendship way when my father passed. So I feel like I don't know all of his stories. I wish he would have lived longer. But I do know my mother's stories, which is why I have so much grace for where she is in her life because she has been through hell a million times over, um, living in these Americas. I'll just say it that way. So I know her story. We've talked about putting her story in writing, and she's still not ready to do that. But I've made a promise to myself that I will tell her story if she never tells it. Um, if she transitions, I will tell her stories. And she knows that because her stories are ones that are, I would say, resilience because she really could be out of her mind with all of the things that have happened to her in her life, but she is not. And so to me, that is a miracle and a testament in and of itself. So ask yourself, do you know your parents' stories? And do you have grace for them? Last question, ask yourself, how am I nurturing myself in ways that my parents did not? So if you didn't have a parent that was um, verbally affirming, how are you nurturing that for yourself now? If you didn't have a parent that was physically affirming, you didn't get lots of touches, you didn't get lots of hugs, you didn't get pats on the back, you didn't get hair rubs, whatever, how are you nurturing that for yourself in ways that your parent did not? And that is the end of chapter 11. When we come back next week, hopefully, if our creator says the same, and our country doesn't destroy the world in the next 7 days. We'll be in chapter 12, troubleshooting relationships with siblings. I have, let me see, sometimes I have to count. I have 5 brothers and I have 1 sister. I grew up in a family with lots of men. I actually attribute the good relationships that I have with men in general to the fact that I grew up around a lot of men. And then I'm going to add one more word to that. I grew up around a lot of good men. And so some of the conversations that I hear around men and their actions and their behaviors, while I do know that patriarchy is something that has become a toxic thing in this society, very, very toxic. I have so many good experiences with men that I have to remind myself that not everybody has had good experiences with men, whether it be their siblings as brothers, or whether it be their uncles, or whether it be cousins or nephews. For the most part, I have had trauma with some men, but for the most part, I've had really good relationships with men in general. So that's going to be an interesting chapter to dig into, especially when it comes to male siblings. All right. Pastor Ben, if you are here, I think I saw your good morning. I'm going to add you in and we're going to have the rest of our conversation talk today. Let me see if I can add you. Okay, I sent you the message. Hopefully, you have gotten it. While we're waiting, I want to encourage you to do a couple of things. If you are enjoying this broadcast, subscribe to our page. Um, if you are enjoying this broadcast and you want to find us on other platforms, you can go to my Facebook page, Black Table Talk, which is where I am most of the time. We have 158,000 followers there, and we are chopping it up about everything from religion to politics to finances to health and wealth to Black achievements. So if you are a Black American, and even if you're not a Black American, we welcome. The page is open for anyone as long as you're providing respectful dialogue. But it is a page geared toward Black Americans and the African diaspora. You're welcome to join us over there at any time. All right, Pastor Ben, I think I have connected you. Let's see. There we go. Good morning. Uh, It's a little choppy, so I'm gonna wait till your connection connects. All right, that's
Okay.
better. How are you today?
I'm good. I am good. I'm on top of a roof in humid conditions.
Woo! Okay. God bless you in your endeavors.
Yeah. But
But
I
I
had a
had a
great
great
relationship
relationship
with both of
with
my
both of my
parents.
parents. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they
Unfortunately, they
both have
both have
passed,
passed,
but
but
I had a
I had
great
a great
relationship.
relationship.
Not
Not
always so
always so
much when I
much
was
when I was
growing up,
growing up.
but as
But
we
as we
transitioned into
transitioned into
adulthood,
adulthood, uh-huh. I mean,
yeah.
you know my story.
Hmm.
I was 4 years old when I was tested for my IQ, and I was tested for neurodivergent. So when I was 4, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and they gave me a dose of Ritalin, and I took one dose of Ritalin, and I was literally like bouncing all over the house, flying on top of furniture in the hood. You know, this is absolutely a no no in the hood, okay? I'm
Hmm.
jumping from couches, hopping on the coffee table, And my mom was like, she will not be taking that again. We're gonna figure this out. And so my mother pretty much did behavior modification and a lot of corporal punishment because that's kind of what most parents back then were doing, especially if you were
Mhm.
in a black household. So I went through a lot of corporal punishment. My mom would spank me every single day because she felt like it was getting me in line. Okay. My first conversation with my mom that I like fully understood was at 4 years old. She sat me down at 4 years old and they had just finished doing, she had just gotten the results of my IQ test. And I was trying to look at the paper and see what it said, and she would never let me look at the paper. And I was like, well, okay, how did I do? You know, I'm a kid. I'm like, okay, am I good? And my mother said this to me and I never forgot it. She said, "You have the power to either save the world or blow it up. Choose wisely." Now imagine I'm 4 years old and your mother is telling you that you could blow up the world. Like, what the heck? What kind of message is that to deliver to a 4 year old? But I never forgot it. I never forgot it. And I can honestly say that even through my mother's own mental health challenges and changes, she never made me feel like I was unintelligent. She never made me feel like I was not capable. And anything that I wanted to put my mind to do, or anything I wanted to explore and experiment with, even being in the hood on a minimal income, she would try her best to make sure that I had the tools in order to experiment with whatever it was. So whether it was dancing or, I was into like cars at one point, she would get me this whole collection of Hot Wheels cars. Now, at the time that she got it for me, I didn't know that that was like my father's profession. I didn't know that my father was like the pimp my ride guy before there was
Mhm.
ever a pimp my ride. Like my father worked on the detailing for the cars for Miami Vice. He detailed the Miami Vice cars for the film set. My father built engines from scratch. My father built yachts from scratch. People would fly him over to the Caribbean to build a yacht for them, and he would be gone for sometimes weeks or months at a time. But I didn't know that. I was just exploring that. But whatever it was, my mom would allow me to explore it without judgment. I'm gonna say that again for the parents. Ooh, child. My mother would allow me to explore things I was interested in without judgment. She wouldn't push me into anything,
Mhm.
but if she saw that I had an interest, she would try to provide the resources for that interest, let me explore it, and then if I stayed with it, then she would invest more into it, which is what happened
Mhm.
with visual art and with singing. But I noticed that if somebody tried to judge me in my exploration or tried to fit me into a gender norm, this was way back in the 70s. My mother would be like, listen, you leave my child alone. You don't tell my child what to do. You don't tell my child what they can play with. You don't tell my child this is for girls only or this is for boys only. My mother was way ahead of her time when it came to just understanding that children develop and you should let children play and learn through play.
Mhm.
My mother was way ahead of her time with that. And so I remember somebody trying to come to my mother and say, "What you got her? Why she got all them Hot Wheels cars? What you got her doing over here? Why she always playing with them cars? We don't never see her with no baby doll." And my mom was like, "Leave my child alone." let my child play.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so those are some of my earliest memories that I have in
Mhm.
childhood with my mother. What do you
Yeah.
think about what do you think about celebrating your parent on a regular basis
Well, that's a great thing. That's what we did.
and not just for
Yeah.
special occasions?
Yeah. Well, I did. Well, as I said, myself and two of my siblings, we took care of our parents. When they got a certain age, and we were always with them. Taking turns. Or I was with mom for 2 years. Then I have another sister that was with mom for the last 3 years of her life.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 5 years that we covered that. And she ended, she was going through the dementia stages. And one of my other sisters, she took care of dad for the last 3 years of his life.
Mm.
So, and we were always doing things, or if, like my sister in Port St. Lucie, she took care of dad. And if anything was going on there and she needed help, she would give me a call, and I would take care of it. And that's what we did. And we would get together sometimes and just take them to dinner or something or lunch or whatever. And that restaurant that's been in the news lately,
Which
Cracker Barrel,
yeah. Oh,
that was
okay.
mom's favorite restaurant.
Oh wow. Ooh wee. How did you feel
So yeah,
going in
and
there if that was since that was her favorite restaurant?
I did it because that was mom and that was her
Right,
favorite
right,
spot.
right, right. Mm-hmm.
But me myself, I could have done without it.
Okay. Understood, understood, understood. And again,
Mhm.
um, when I think about the plan, where she talked about having a plan for your family member, I remember my sister, my brother, and I, because I have siblings from different parents. I have siblings where we don't share the same mother, and I have
Mhm.
siblings where we don't share the same father. So I live with my siblings who have different fathers from me, and we got together and we had gotten our mom moved into a space of her own. We had bought furniture and clothing and all these things, and we set it up, and we were like, yes, we have secured this for our mom. We know she's going to be okay. And I'm telling you, within a week, she had taken everything that we had bought her and either destroyed it or put it in a dumpster. And that was, I felt like it was kind of a heartbreaking moment for us as siblings because it was like, okay,
Mhm.
we realized that she was going to be her. She was going to make the choices that she wanted to make. She didn't want the stability that we were trying to give her. And
Mhm.
it was kind of at that moment that we had to just say, okay, we're gonna let go of our needs and our wants and our desires because we wanted her to be in a stabilized place where we could go see her, right, when we felt like and when we wanted to. And my mom was like,
Mhm.
no, this is not the way that I want to live. I want to go and come when I please. I want to go from city to city, stay where I want to stay, hang out with who I want to hang out with, and I'll be okay. And if I need help, I will call y'all. Um, I don't necessarily want you all to worry, so I will check in and let you know I'm okay. But this is the way that I want to live my life. And
Mhm.
as children, as much as you want to hold on to your ideas and your thoughts about how your future is going to look like with your parent, it was a big, big adjustment for us to realize we were not going to have the traditional mother daughter, son mother, adult teen relationship that other people have. And so sometimes when I see that relationship with other people, I'm like, I have no frame of reference for that.
Mhm.
I don't know how to um, share with you in that because I've never had it. Like the last real, I would say, connection point that my mother and I had was back in 2011. Not even at her mother's funeral, because she didn't show up for her mother's funeral.
Hmm.
Yeah, they had a very tumultuous relationship with each other. And so 2011 was the last time that I had an in person sit down with my mother. 2011. What year is it now?
2025.
Okay. So that's 14 years of me fully having to do what she said in this book, which is parenting yourself. So I try to tell people, I'm like,
Hmm.
when I was going through childhood, my mother instilled things in me. She made sure I got to where I was needed to be an adult. But as an adult herself, with no kids, she's living her life. And so some of the milestones that I maybe would have wanted to share with her, I've just had to celebrate because I'm not going to stop.
Mhm.
I'm not going to not celebrate. But having like a big celebration with lots of family around, like I have family, but they're all spread out. They're in different states. So if we don't do a family reunion, I don't get the chance to see everybody in that huge way, right? Whereas I have other friends of mine, they literally live within 5 miles of their entire family all the time. They see each other every Sunday. I think that's amazing. I think that's beautiful, but it's not the reality for a lot of people. And so if you have that, be very thankful for it. If it's great, like I said, like she said, if your parents are great, they're honorable, they treat you well, you have good communication with them. Listen, I could only dream of that. It's a dream for me. It's not a reality. So I have to move in the reality of what I have, right? And anybody else who's dealing with that, you got to move in the reality of what you have. Learn to celebrate yourself. As she said, parent yourself,
Mhm.
nurture yourself, and work through that in therapy. Because some people are really angry right now because they don't have that parent. Their parent, it's not like their parent is deceased, but it may feel like your parent is deceased if you don't have that kind of connection. I want to take up all the time talking because I could talk. But back to
Yeah.
your parents.
Yeah, but both of my parents were comedians.
Mm, okay.
My mom,
Was a talker at times. He could really make you laugh.
make you laugh.
My dad was quiet
My
like
dad was
me.
quiet like me.
Okay. You're quiet, Ben?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
heard
heard,
that,
I
Shante.
heard that, Shante. I heard that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you were, he would make you. I mean, you were just. I mean, that is again became
After we
adults.
became adults,
See,
see, but
I mean, it was
I mean, it
like,
was like, but
when he
when he
spoke, it was
spoke, it
like
was like
on
on
point,
point,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be
but it would be
funny,
funny,
and you would
and
just
you
laugh,
would just laugh,
But
But But I can say this though:
anything
anything
that I
that
wanted
I
to
wanted to
participate in, my
participate in, my
siblings want to
siblings want to
participate in.
participate in,
Mm-hmm.
Mom did
mom did
everything she
everything
could to
she could to
support that.
support that.
Mm-hmm.
She did.
She did.
Not dad.
Not
So
dad. Some
dad will
dad
front
will
the
front the
money,
money,
Mm-hmm.
but he
but
ain't
he ain't
coming.
coming.
So
So
you know,
you know,
that
that
was
was
that.
that.
But
But
mom,
mom,
she
she
would
would
try
try
to
to
be
be
there,
there,
and
and with
it
it
being
being
eight
eight
of
of
us,
us,
Oh wow, yeah. Mm-hmm.
sometimes she
she
couldn't
couldn't
make
make
it.
it.
Because she had
Because
to
she had
be,
to be,
and we
and we
understood that.
understood that.
We understood it.
Understood.
But
But
it was
it was
mostly like
mostly like
my
my
older three
older three
siblings,
siblings,
myself,
myself,
and then
and
my
then my
sister
sister
under
under
me.
me.
The other
The other
three,
three,
they didn't
they
too
didn't
much
too much
participate in a
participate
whole
in a
lot of
whole lot of
things.
things.
Like maybe a
Like maybe
school
a school
course or
course or
something like
something
that
like
here
that
or
here or
there.
there.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
from my
from my
oldest
oldest
to
to
my
my
sister under
sister
me,
under me,
we were in
we were in
music.
music.
Mm-hmm.
All of us
All of
were
us
up.
were up.
The
The
five were in
five were in
music,
music,
playing
playing
instruments.
instruments.
Uh, my
My
two
two
sisters
sisters
in that
in
group,
that group,
they would
they
be
would
in the
be in the
chorus and
chorus
stuff
and
like
stuff
that.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I was
Me, I
into
was into
sports,
sports.
you know.
You know,
So,
so
uh,
uh,
but mom
but
tried to
mom tried to
support.
support.
What she wasn't
What she
coming to
wasn't coming
see
to see
was me
was me
wrestling
wrestling
because it was
because it was
ingrained in her
ingrained in her
mind,
mind.
the stuff you
The
see
stuff
on
you see on
TV,
TV,
Okay.
and she
and
wasn't
she wasn't
coming.
coming.
That
That
she made
she
that
made that
clear.
clear.
I'm not
I'm not
coming.
coming.
You know,
You know,
I'll
I'll
sign the
sign the
paper. You
paper.
can
You
do
can
it,
do it.
and I'm
And I'm
signing this.
signing
I
this.
don't
I
really
don't
want to
really want
sign
to
it, but I'm
sign
gonna
it, but I'm
sign
gonna
it
sign
because
it
you want to
because you
do
want to
it.
do it.
But I'm not
But I'm
coming.
not coming.
Oh, the
That was
joy.
her.
Oh, the joy of parents.
Hmm.
And so, I don't know. I obviously, because I'm not a parent, I do not have natural children. I have God children. And like I said, they get all my money. I'm sitting here thinking right now about what I'm gonna be doing for the holidays because they get all my money. So when people like you don't have any kids, I'm like I do have some kids because they get all my money. They still get all my money.
Hmm.
Hmm.
They just didn't come out of me, but they get my money. Um, and so I look at parents with a great deal of admiration. Um, I look at the sacrifices that parents have to make. Um, I look at, especially if you have more than one child, the personalities that you have to deal with, the personalities that you have to nurture and to guide. And I think parenthood is an amazing and incredible gift and a calling in many ways
Hmm.
Hmm.
because not everyone is gifted with souls to guide and nurture through the human experience. That's
Hmm.
one way that I look at it. So I try to give people grace, even though I'm not physically a parent. I try to give people grace. Um, I've come to have a lot of students that still follow me that I no longer teach, that see me as a parent to them. I count that as an honor
Hmm.
because I tell them, listen, um, there were some things I missed out on in terms of the parent nature. And so if you see me in that role, I count that as an honor. I don't take that for granted. When it comes to spiritual life, I have two people that look to me as a spiritual person, a spiritual parent, because I nurtured them from their very first days in Christ until
Hmm.
Hmm.
now. I don't let a lot of people refer to me as a spiritual mother.
Right.
I'm not a spiritual mother to a lot of people, and I don't want to be. And when I say that, I'm not saying it from the aspect of nurturing somebody through their spiritual process. I'm saying I'm not trying to just collect people to say that I parent them
Mhm.
to collect a fee from them monthly, which is unfortunately what a lot of people do.
Mhm.
Because I do understand the responsibility of that. I have people that those two persons, they anytime they come to my mind, I stop what I'm doing and I intercede for them. So it's a relationship that's been 2 decades plus. It's not just, oh, come be my spiritual child and pay this money per month and I will mother you. No, that's not how that
Mhm.
works. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been duped into thinking that that's how it works.
And see, here's the thing. You're right. I'm in with this. You're right. But here's the thing. When you think about a parent, a mother or father, translate that to a spiritual mother or father, spiritual parent. What do your parents charge you to raise you?
Mm-mm. Ooh, child.
Seriously.
Woo,
I have
woo,
I
woo.
have people that see me as a spiritual father. I don't really like the term, but that's what they see me as. You know how many times I've asked for money from them? Zero. I'm taking the role of a parent.
Ooh, child.
So I mean, they may say,
Ooh.
"Well, Dad, I'm gonna do this for you. Dad, I picked this up for you. Dad, check your Cash App, check your Zelle." You know, I don't ask them for a dime because as a parent, I had biological children of my own. I never charged them a dime to raise them.
Ooh, child. That's all I can say. Woo, 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 woo. Because the reality is, if you are raising right, if you are parenting right, even in my situation, I still want to honor my mom. I don't get as many opportunities to honor her because she don't have no address I could just send stuff to.
Hmm.
She loses her phone often. So I'm just like certain things I just have to hold until. But the nature of wanting to honor her, that's there. And if you have a good parent,
Hmm.
you're going to want to honor them. Your desire to honor them is going to be there and you're going to demonstrate that. If I am parenting well, I shouldn't have to tell you to honor me. And if you are receiving me into your life as a spiritual guide, I shouldn't have to tell you to honor me. But I'm gonna say it again.
Hmm.
Ooh, woo, 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 woo. there are people right now that guided me in the faith, and I honor them. They may not be a part of my current ministry, but I am still sending them honor.
Hmm.
Why? Because they shape my foundation, and that will never not be a part of my story of spiritual growth and development. They shape my foundation. They are worthy of honor. And whenever I can, I'm going to honor them in that way. Now, I may not be able to travel to them because unfortunately they live in Alligator Alcatraz, Florida right now. And so I have some spiritual restrictions on coming to Florida, but there are other ways that I can honor them. And So we're gonna stop right there because you know we can go
Yeah.
when it comes to this honor topic. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles, along with my willing co-host, Pastor Ben. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so continue to go out and be light. Take care, everyone. Be well. Most importantly, be what, Pastor Ben? Light. Take care, everyone. Be well, and God bless.